Welcome to Linux Plus. Today we will discuss about SSH key management from client side using CentOS 7. In the next video we will discuss about setting up the server to manage SSH connections with public keys, all admin related information. Let's do it. Alright, so key pair can normally be generated either using Puttygen. You can just sort of generate two keys, public key and private key, or you can use the Linux environment. And that's cool. That's fun to actually do it. I guess it's really easy to do it in Puttygen, but let's do it in Linux. Alright, so what's the first thing to do? First thing, we just go to the root directory and we go to .ssh. We see what's here. So now I can see that I have my private key that I use to log in to different servers, and this is my public key that I've given to admin to add in the system to allow me to log in, because you need to have this public key. Your system administrator will always ask you, for example, if you get a job or you change job, anywhere you go, this is just a really secure mechanism to get access. Now passwords are good, but this is the best. This really works. So for example, if you have to create one public key, system administrator asks you, what do you do? Easy step, really easy. Keygen, this is the basic command. Now if you just type and enter, it will just use default values. Let's actually show you. See, we don't want that, we want customized. SSH -keygen, and we want to have type that is RSA. You can choose another type as well, and we want bit 4096, let's say, a bit more secure. And I want to comment my key as my key, just to sort of have a comment so that they can understand this is my key. Okay, it's generating the key pair. We want to use the default root, which is default path, which is .ssh, and we want to rename it, for example, my personal key. So this is the name. It will ask you the passphrase. You can choose one passphrase here. I'll re-enter it again. Okay, so now the key is generated. Now if we go to ls-root-.ssh, so we can see that my personal key and my personal key.pub is listed here. So now what you would normally do, okay, we go there. Let's say we go to root directory and we go to .ssh. Here we want to open my personal key .pub. So this is the key you would actually copy and give it to your admin. For example, if I want to add it here, it should be on one line here. Easy. So this is the key exactly that you will give to the admin. No, clear. Alright, now your key is generated, right? But obviously your public key is still here, so it's not added in the server yet. But my key is already added here. This is my public key, so I'll just show you test version how to manage that, because we are doing only the client part now. We're gonna move to the server part soon. Okay, so this is my private key and this is my public key. So I have already loaded that public key on the server, which will allow me to log into essentially any server where I want to use my public key to log in. Alright, now so what we can do now, let's say I want to use my private key to log into localhost. So what I will do, SSH -i I want to use the input, I want to use the path, which is .ssh, and test key to automatically load here. You need to specify where you want to go. Localhost, for example. I just want to test it. Okay, we'll say enter the passphrase. Okay, now I'm in. So I'm actually using now my private key to log into localhost. And now, for example, if I want to say what exactly happened, I'll use Systemctl -f to follow U for the unit. Now that looks like a funny command, but it actually gives a really good output. I want to see what exactly happened. Not this, I mean Generalctl. Alright, so see here it says accepted public key for root. So that means that we have got now authenticated using our public and private key here. Alright, so now we know that this works. I mean, I can log into so now see connection to localhost closed. So Control D to log out and Control L to clear, because I'm always typing clear wrong, so why not just use shortcut Control L. Control L. Okay. So now we can see that I have tested my test key _4096_RSA. But now one thing is that I have to every time specify the path of the file, and then I can log in. It kind of like, gets really confusing, and it makes sort of, hard to every time type the full path, to the key. What if you can actually load it in the config file? So what we're trying to do, we just want to load it in the config file to point to it every time we want to log into it. Let's say to any server, essentially. If we want to add it in the config file, it's going to be super easy. So we'll go vi config, right? I for insert. For example, host is my server, let's say, and I want to specify that host name is localhost. In this case, it might be an IP address. In your case, user is root, and now you have to specify which port we are using. By default is 22. And now here the important part is to use identity file, and you have to specify the path, which is .ssh test key _4096_RSA. Now that's my private key, so I want to use the path to go to my private key to pick it up, so I don't have to type every time. Now host, you can name it whatever you like, but be careful here, this has to have the right IP address or fully qualified domain name. It cannot be wrong. $WQ. Alright, so what if I want, let's say I want to SSH my server. This is asking passphrase, right? I don't have to specify the path now. So here we can tweak it to pick it up the identity file. Let's say I want to use the passphrase to log in now, and I'm logged in. It automatically goes to localhost. I don't have to sort of, say that I want to log into that IP address. I already defined in identity file, so it just saves the time. It's really easy to manage. Now, you might have noticed that every time I want to log in, I have to type the passphrase, which is fine, but it just, it makes more sense to have, passphrase options disabled temporarily. So what if you can cache the the password locally till your session is active, so you don't have to sort of enter every time the passphrase. You might have seen that if you are using the GUI version, like known desktop version, it will show you, once you entered your passphrase, you want to take that option to sort of store the passphrase, let's say the whole time the session is active. But how do you do it in the command line interface? This is what we're going to explore now. So we'll find out what agent is running now. So ps aux, we want to grab SSH-agent, and we know that SSH agent is here. It's running. It's got the PID 2792. Let me actually kill that. 2792. What's the status now? No process. Okay. Yep, nothing is running. Good. We want to reload that so that it picks up the key where we enter. Well, $sign, and then we specify what we want to run. In this case, it's SSH agent. Yep. Alright, so PID is 3063. We'll see now if it's running. Yeah, it is running now. Let's say if we want to do now SSH. We are here now, SSH my server. Now it makes sense that it's picking up the right identity file, so we will enter the password one time so that it can be cached with the SSH agent locally till my session is active. Okay, now it's back to normal now, so we can log in, right? What if I do now, I want to, let's say, Control D, SSH my server, enter the password, right? So now here you will specify the password again. Now the interesting thing is, from here, let's say when you're logged in, you don't have to specify the password again, because it will automatically be loaded in the cached memory. So this is the purpose. I don't know if it will go backward, but obviously you might have a server in the company where you work, and you want to have one file where you have added everything, like in the config file, to point out to different servers. So let's say the file that we used for identity file when we went to the config, right? You can actually add all of the servers technically, like pointing out to your private key, and you can use the SSH agent to cache the password locally, and from here you don't have to specify the password every time. See, but I'm actually logged into the server here, so it won't do much. But imagine if you want to SSH to different server, that is already added in your identity file. This would actually make a lot of sense, and it would just create so much of ease. Alright, so we can see that my key worked, and we have seen that in the config file, you can see that this is my server name, and I specified only localhost. So if I am on localhost, I don't actually have to type the password again and again for the passphrase. If I SSH to any other server using my private key, it will automatically do it from the cache memory. I don't have to type every time again and again. But now the important thing is you can always have more than one server in this list here. So for example, in the cat file, here in the config file, you can add, let's say, another host with a different IP address down here. It will just add, it will be just one file where you can sort of manage everything, pointing out from your private key to essentially connecting to anywhere you want to connect to. So that's the whole point. So I hope that this series will actually help you to learn about Linux, and this is pretty much what happens on the client side. So now you might have seen that we use systemctl command, which is a part of the systemd, which most of the people hate in Linux. But this is a new way of doing things when it comes to the services and their status. So for example, if I want to check the status for SSH, you'll say systemctl status sshd. It will give you the status of the SSH. Now you can also use service sshd status. See, it's doing the same thing, but it's redirecting to systemctl. So this is the actual command, and this is the linking it to it. So it's good to know, for example, that you can use these type of commands to sort of manage all the systems more effectively. And normally you will use Generalctl. Now if you just type enter, it will give you everything in the journals, all the entries, right? But the good thing is to only do, for example, if you can just define the unit -u, for example. If I want to just see sshd, I don't want to see other logs. This will give me all the logs of sshd. You can see that how publickey was accepted here and how PAM authenticated. It's just different mechanism, right? But for example, you might have seen sometimes when someone is having an issue with the SSH, they can't log in, for example, right? Then you might need to follow the log, right? In this case, you can, essentially you can go to var log, and then you can do old-fashioned way. But the new way to do is Journalctl -f to follow, right? And then you type the unit, can be any unit, and then you type the service name, SSHD, for example, in this case, right? So this is just one way of, for example, like looking the errors closely, and you can find what exactly happened, different logs and different entries, which kind of like makes sense. So today we discussed about how to sort of use private keys, and how to generate public key, and how to sort of use the private key to get access to different servers, and how effectively we can manage the private key. Now private key you don't share with anyone. That's something that you need to keep it to yourself, and you only give public key. And you can always sort of make it more secure to use certificates with public keys, which I will be also making a video how to use certificates to sort of make it more secure, that I'm only getting my public key that it's labeled against me and not someone else, just to prevent man in the middle attack. So this is something that I'll be doing in the next few videos. But definitely I'm coming with the server side of SSH, like what we can configure, what we can do from admin point of view, that will help us to sort of see what happens on the other side, because normally it's all about the users, how they are trying to access the servers and they need their private key. But what happens on the other side, on the server side? So that I will be doing a free IPA that uses Kerberos authentication, and also uses private key to authenticate it, also uses certificate as well. So it will be a very interesting video that I will be making very soon. And I guess that's it for now. So technically we have done pretty much all the basic stuff that you can have for private key. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye. Please like and support our channel. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos like this. That's it for now. See you in the next video. Have a good one.